Throughout his 34 years of professional activity, Rembieliński was entangled in the era's crucial contradictions, yet remained one of its most distinguished representatives. The first third of the 19th century was a time of many breakthroughs and numerous confrontations. Two value systems and two worldviews clashed, and the most famous manifestation of this ideological rivalry remains the dispute between the classicists and the romanticists. Less well known are the disputes over the vision of civilizational progress. While there was no doubt that it was essential, there was no consensus on the models upon which it should be based. Some saw the idea of progress in the values brought by the French Revolution, others in the values disseminated by the Industrial Revolution. Paradoxically, the most ardent advocate of the industrial development of the Kingdom of Poland, bringing it closer to Western Europe, became a graduate of the St. Petersburg Cadet Corps, who spoke Russian better than Polish. This was Prince Ksawery Drucki-Lubecki, Minister of the Treasury of the Kingdom of Poland from 1821. He was accused of lacking his own system and imitating the Russian financial system. This image was further compounded by divisions stemming from political affiliations, which also proved important and enduring. Among the high-ranking government officials and in the officer corps were many former associates and sympathizers of Napoleon. But alongside them sat those who held various hopes for Russia and Tsar King Alexander I. This, in a somewhat simplified manner, describes the backdrop of events unfolding at the turn of the feudal and capitalist eras, as well as the political scene that Rajmund Rembieliński entered in 1816 as president of the Mazovian Voivodeship Commission. He was no stranger to Warsaw's political circles. He was born in Warsaw, but spent his youth on the family estate in the Łomża region. His father, a standard-bearer of Wisła, was secretary to Stanisław August Poniatowski. From 1786 to 1790, Rembieliński studied at the Knight School, Noble Academy of the Cadet Corps, graduating with a gold medal. He participated in the Kościuszko uprising as a land colonel. After the partitions, he settled in his native Jedwabne, where he farmed, read widely, and, as his biographer wrote, matured mentally and morally, accumulating a store of experience and principles for future conduct. During the Napoleonic era, he became the organizer of administration in Białystok and Łomża. The Napoleonic Civil Code, already in force, prohibited him from serving as prefect in the department where his land estates were located. Therefore, after only a month in office, in January 1808, he was appointed prefect of the Płock department. A year later, he brilliantly organized the defense of the right bank of the Vistula against Austrian troops. He established a field hospital in Putusk, supplied food to warehouses, and collected medical supplies for the upcoming hospital in Płock. His organizational skills caught the attention of Father Józef Poniatowski, who appointed him to the challenging and responsible position of Inspector General of the Army marching to Galicia. Poniatowski saw the Płock prefect as an official deserving of public trust and particularly familiar to me for his devotion to his homeland, his moral character, and his selfless acumen in running government administration. Nevertheless, his several-month military service contributed to the creation of the Black Legend of Rembieliński. It's necessary to take a closer look at the Galician achievements of the Płock prefect, because the characteristics attributed to him at the time effectively distorted his later image. Wierydianna Fischerowa, who knew the then officer corps well through her husband, General Stanisław Fischer, wrote, "The general intendant insolently plundered everything he could. Our generals treated the country as conquered territory with maniacal stubbornness. They were never satisfied with their housing and supplies," adding at the same time that the bad example came from Prince J. Poniatowski and spread widely. Said bad example was nothing other than the commander-in-chief of the Duchy of Warsaw's army modeling itself on Napoleon's conduct in the occupied countries during the war. Copying this pattern, Poniatowski endowed Rembieliński with extensive powers, entrusting him with all parts and departments of the administration. It should be added that the Archduke Ferdinand d'Este acted identically, appointing an intendant with the same prerogatives in the territories of the duchy he occupied. Such was the practice of the time during the war, and, as it turned out, completely incomprehensible to the Galician nobility, stuck in the old pre-Napoleonic feudal patterns. Kajetan Koźmian echoed General Fischer's sentiments, writing of Rembieliński, "Unpleasant to the nation, hated by the Galician provinces because of the memory of his pride and conduct in the military commissariat." He accused him of vanity, pride, and abuse of power. The general intendant was blamed for carrying out requisitions of noble estates, as well as for imposing contributions on the inhabitants of Lublin and ruthlessly enforcing them. The publication of Koźmian's memoirs, published by his son in 1858, prompted demands from Rembieliński's descendants for corrections or evidence confirming the author's slanderous words. The publisher was threatened with legal or honorary action. Despite this, neither Andrzej Edward Koźmian nor publisher Jan Konstanty Żupański presented any evidence, and in 1860, the Lublin City Hall certified that no documents had been found confirming the alleged imposition of contributions on the city. 10 years later, Jakub Garlicz, who served as commissioner of the Stanisławów district from 1816 to 1830, defended Rembieliński's good name. He noted that the commissariat service could be an excellent way to enrich oneself, and Rembieliński was several 100,000 złotych poorer by the time he left office. The entry of Polish troops into Galicia in 1809 shattered the peace of the local nobility, who, skillfully courted by the Austrian administration, which distributed positions, orders, and titles, were reluctant to show sympathy for the national cause. Hence, the almost universal reluctance to make sacrifices and provide material support for the Polish army fighting the Austrians. The juxtaposition of this attitude with resilient organization and discipline introduced in the wake of Prince Józef's army could not have resulted in sympathy for the representatives of the new administration, even though it was homegrown Polish. The occupation of Galicia by the troops of the Duchy of Warsaw threatened the local nobility with the transfer of the duchy's political systems. New bourgeois solutions, so different from the traditionally cultivated feudal ones. While not denying the Galician nobility's patriotism, they were accused of far-reaching servility towards the Habsburg court and administration. Koźmian left a description of the Galician nobility being received by the landowner Stanisław Zamoyski in Austrian uniform. Upon noticing the contorted expressions, he calmly left and returned shortly thereafter, wearing a robe and a sash. Rembieliński was perceived as a representative of the French orientation, associated not only with a new style of administration, but also with feared social reforms. The memoirist's account of the meeting between Rembieliński and the Lublin Commission sounds anecdotal, during which he insulted all the Polish officials with proud and awkward words, and so terrified and frightened were the Austrians that they immediately abandoned their places and asked for passports. This scene is a prime example of the local nobility's servility, but also of Rembieliński's effective conduct, a trait he would repeatedly demonstrate in the future. It's also worth quoting Michał Choćko, who argued with Koźmian. An opinion about Rembieliński's harsh conduct could only have been formulated by someone unaccustomed to respect for the law. The general intendant aroused antipathy among the nobility of new departments, but earned the recognition, gratitude, and friendship of Prince Józef Poniatowski. The source of Koźmian's animosity toward Rembieliński must be sought not only in their differing political sympathies and ideological differences, but also in the deep resentment Koźmian had harbored towards the chairman of the Mazovian Voivodeship Commission since the 1820 Parliament meeting, where Rembieliński served as Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies. During the debates, Koźmian's proposal to organize a lower house court in the Senate was rejected. The reason, according to the project's creator, was the marshal's clumsiness and the blindness and ambitions of the Kalisz tribunes, as he ironically called the opposition party of the Kalisz residents. The sense of disappointment was so strong that, returning to this event several times in his memoirs, Koźmian used the term the unhappy parliament under Rembieliński's hand. He did not hide his disappointment in the marshal's conduct of the proceedings, who was the least capable of leading, moderating, and calming the minds of the large, and still Polish, assembly. He did not control minds for speech, did not soothe hearts, did not calm, but rather incited anger. It was also significant that the memoirist had family and professional ties to Lublin, and during the Duchy of Warsaw, he was particularly close to Stanisław Zamoyski, president of the Central Military Provisional Government of the two Galicias, who was reluctant to change the pattern of Napoleonic legislation. All of these circumstances should be taken into account when reading Koźmian's opinions about individuals whose views he disagreed with, or even opposed. He was far from objective at the time, and he wrote about Rembieliński with reluctance, bordering on disgust. Then came Rajmund Rembieliński, whose image I will not repeat here. All the actions and traits attributed to the intendant, vain, proud, arrogant, were intended to discredit an official associated with a political orientation alien to the memoirist's views.